Chapter 2 Part 3. Bernard of Clairvaux wrote, "As a searching investigator of the integrity of your own conduct, submit your life to a daily examination. Consider carefully what progress you have made or what ground you have lost. Strive to know yourself. Place all your faults before your eyes. Come face to face with yourself as though you were another person." One of the real treasures that this practice delivers is an increased awareness of who we are and what is happening in us and around us. This awareness heightens our ability to experience life. That's right, it actually increases our capacity for life. And in this way, what we are talking about is an examination of consciousness as much as an examination of conscience. Very often, we wander through a day, a week, a month, or even a year with very little consciousness, almost oblivious to what is really happening inside us and around us. The daily examination of conscience challenges that by liberating us from living unconsciously. It would seem to me that people are becoming less and less aware of themselves. Many of the things we do and say scream, "I am completely unaware of how I speak and act affects the people around me." The prayer process, an adaptation of the examination, provides a consistent format to guide you in your daily prayer. Here is the process in its simplest form. The prayer process. 1. Gratitude. Begin by thanking God in a personal dialogue for whatever you are most grateful for today. 2. Awareness. Revisit the times in the past 24 hours when you were and were not the best versions of yourself. Talk to God about these situations and what you learned from them. 3. Significant moments. Identify something you experienced today and explore what God might be trying to say to you through that event or person. 4. Peace. Ask God to forgive you for any wrong you have committed against yourself, another person, or Him, and to fill you with a deep and abiding peace. 5. Freedom. Speak with God about how He is inviting you to change your life so that you can experience the freedom to be the best version of yourself. 6. Others. Lift up to God anyone you feel called to pray for today, asking God to bless and guide them. And 7. Finish by praying the Our Father. Each of the 6 steps in this process should stimulate a conversation with God. It's easy to fall into the trap of merely thinking about these things. When you find yourself doing that, return to actually speaking with God about whatever it is you are thinking. The goal is to develop the ability to have intimate conversations with God during this time set aside for prayer. The more deeply rooted we become in this daily habit of prayer, the more those conversations with God will spill over into the moments of our daily lives. If you are just beginning, you may want to start with just 1 minute of conversation with God each day, adding a minute each week until you reach 10. If that's the case, don't try to race through all 7 aspects of the prayer process. Just use the first step, gratitude. Spend your time speaking to God about everyone and everything you are grateful for, and then close with an Our Father. As you expand your time of prayer over the coming weeks, adding minutes, I suggest you add 1 step at a time of the process to your daily prayer. The key is to get the conversation started. But whether you start with 1 minute a day or 10 minutes a day, I hope this chapter has left you thinking, I can do that. Nothing will change your life more meaningfully than developing a vibrant and sustainable prayer life. Prayerlessness, the curse of our age. Prayerlessness is one of the great torments of modern times. For decades, the time we spend in focused prayer has been diminishing as our lives have become busier and busier. We have fallen into the tyranny of the urgent, which demands that we rush from one urgent thing to the next. The problem with this is that the most important things are hardly ever urgent. This can leave us always doing urgent things, but never doing important things. It is these most important things that we are never getting around to in this cycle. Prayer is one of those important things, and among the highest priority. Prayer helps us to identify what matters most and strengthens our hearts and minds to give priority to those things in our daily lives. What could be more important than prayer? Prayer leads us to catch a glimpse of the best version of ourselves. Over the years, I have encountered many great families in my travels. A number of years ago, I started trying to work out what made these families so steadfast and full of life. What I have discovered is that all the great families I have encountered have a giant of prayer. These prayerful giants pray constantly for their families, surrounding them with God's protection. Somewhere in their not too distant past is a person who was a prayerful giant. A prayerful giant is a person who covers their family with prayer, anchoring the family in God's grace. Sometimes it is a grandmother or grandfather, the mother or father, an uncle or aunt, and from time to time you have to go back 2 or 3 generations, sometimes more. But you always find a prayerful giant in their family tree. Every family needs a cornerstone of prayer to pray for the family now and in the future. Parishes are like large families in many ways. Every parish needs some prayerful giants to surround the parish with prayer. Our world is racing more and more towards an individualistic world, and the parish is one of the casualties of this rampant focus on self. Many people come to Mass on Sunday, but never participate beyond that. They don't engage the community, and the community doesn't engage them. Furthermore, they can often come and go on a Sunday without speaking to anybody else except during the sign of peace. It is, for these people, a wholly personal experience devoid of communal meaning. To explore how far-reaching this attitude might be, ask yourself, what percentage of your parishioners have prayed for the parish outside of the Mass in the past 30 days? This is one of the highest indicators of engagement. We have not conducted research on this question yet, but you can be sure it is a very, very small percentage. Like families, parishes need giants of prayers to guide and protect them. Personal prayer is essential to the Christian life, but so is communal prayer. I would be remiss if I did not mention the enormous importance the 7% play on the role of grace in their lives, and the Eucharist is their primary source of that grace. They have tried to do life on their own and have come to the conclusion that they would rather try to do life with God. Dynamic Catholics recognize that they are imperfect and struggling in various areas of their lives. They recognize they cannot get to the next level in their spiritual life or in their relationships on their own. They know they need God and His grace, and they need community. They come to Mass seeking this grace and community. For this reason and others, the Mass is central to their lives. Many of them identify it as the crown jewel of the spiritual life. Personal prayer is a deepening of your relationship with God, discovering who God is calling you to be for Him, and for others. The liturgical prayer of Sunday Mass is the prayer of the whole Church, gathered as a public proclamation of who we are as Catholics. What you bring to Mass on Sunday is your prayer life, and the deeper it is, the more deeply you can enter into the public expression of the faith of the Church. The Mass is not simply about you. It is the whole Church gathered as a sign of hope to the world. A community at prayer is a beautiful thing. The first sign of a dynamic Catholic is prayer. Dynamic Catholics are first and foremost men and women of prayer, just as the saints were. Is it enough for us just to pray? No. We have been given the mission to transform the world. But the best action springs forth from a vibrant prayer life. Our efforts to transform society into a more loving and just experience for all must be deeply rooted in our Christianity and thus deeply rooted in prayer. I encourage you to begin or renew your commitment to a life of prayer today. Use the prayer process to guide you. If you do, I am confident that you will find it is a faithful guide that will lead you deep into the lifelong friendship with God. What are you going to do in this life that is more fulfilling than developing a friendship with God?